One of the things I've noticed coming at this, not as a politician, but as an outsider, is that sometimes you use these traditional political debates, philosophical debates about to cut entitlement spending or not, as a way to sidestep, in some ways, the harder question, but also the more practical question of what if you could just look at what savings we could get to by making sure that nobody who isn't even supposed to receive that payment is actually getting it. And I think it's irresponsible to begin a discussion around cutting entitlements before we've actually wrung all of that waste and all of that excess error out of the system. Same thing, you'll get into grandiose discussions about whether or not the president has the power to impound funds. Well, if you read the statute, it actually says the president doesn't have to spend the money if it's known to go towards waste, fraud, or abuse. And so I've seen this pattern in Washington, D.C., where often it's a bit of a deflection, a bit of a conflation to say that there's this grand political philosophical question that we would rather be debating or banging our heads on the wall about, when in fact there's lower hanging fruit that we can all deliver in ways that require real work.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about a story that I think really defines the difference between how a accomplished businessman thinks that actually has real world experience versus how a leftist thinks that has no real world experience whatsoever, let alone actually running a business or understanding how organizations work, okay? And what we have to react to is leftist Kyle Kulinski calling for Elon Musk to be deported over the fact that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy want to clean up waste, fraud, and abuse within the government through DOGE. More specifically, what we're talking about here are entitlement programs like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. Now, hear me out, okay? The leftists are fear-mongering about the possibility of DOGE just being a plot to cut entitlements, right? This is what they're fear-mongering about. Oh, they're going to cut grandma's check. They're going to take away grandma's check. They're going to take away your Medicare, your Medicaid. But when you actually listen to what Vivek is talking about in regards to what they're looking to do, he actually says they're looking to rid those programs of waste, fraud, and abuse, in which Medicare and Medicaid have over $100 billion in just waste, fraud, and abuse, aka people receiving money and getting access to the funds and services that they should not be getting access to. $100 billion a year. Vivek comes out and says, hey, we're looking to cut that. Again, not grandma getting her health care covered, right, when she has to go to the hospital. No, that's not what he said. He says the people that are not supposed to be getting the money. Take a look.
That much, if not most, of what the federal regulatory state is doing is on its terms right now illegal and unconstitutional. That needs to be fixed. Once you fix that, that's actually the root cause for a lot of the spending overruns and the carelessness with which the government's contracting with private parties who are charging the federal government far more than they would charge either another government or another private counterparty. Looking at the overruns of just raw waste, fraud, and abuse, the unauthorized dollars that are being spent, over $500 billion a year of unauthorized expenses are still going out the door. You look at the way in which that money is being spent through Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. People love to have lazy armchair discussions about, oh, are you going to make cuts to entitlements or not? When in fact, the dirty little secret is that many of those entitlement dollars aren't even going to people who they were supposed to be going to in the first place. They're hundreds of billions of dollars of savings to extract just from basic program integrity measures to make sure that the person who's actually getting the money was indeed the person for whom it was intended or was supposed to be legally getting the money in the first place. And so my view is a lot of the political philosophical musing about whether or not we should be cutting entitlements or not, or whether or not the president can impound funds, it's a deflection from the fact that there's a lot lower hanging fruit in terms of waste, fraud, abuse, error, program integrity failures that you got to go after first before we ever need to get to those harder political questions. And I hope that's a big part of what we're able to accomplish.
Yeah. So anybody with just basic listening comprehension skills, and in this case, reading comprehension skills, should understand that Vivek clearly stated that, hey, there's billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse, aka people getting money, government money, tax dollars that they should not be getting. We're looking to cut that, right? So we can make the program more efficient. Before we think about having any of the harder conversations about the people who are supposed to be getting the money and whether or not we should be reducing that. Literally says we shouldn't even have that conversation until we cut out the waste, fraud, and abuse. And now I want you guys to listen to this clown's reaction to Vivek saying that we need to cut waste, fraud, and abuse out of some of these government programs.
It cuts to entitlements or not. When in fact, the dirty little secret is that many of those entitlement dollars aren't even going to people who they were supposed to be going to in the first place. There are hundreds of billions of dollars of savings to extract just from basic program integrity measures to make sure that the person who was actually getting the money was indeed the person for whom it was intended or was supposed to be legally getting the money in the first place. So in other words, let me translate this for you. What Vivek is saying is, bro, listen, we don't even need to go through Congress. We don't even need Congress to pass some sort of a bill that cuts Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, or reforms them is the term of art they would use. We're going to reform Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Reform by cutting it. He's saying we don't even need Congress. We can do this on our own already. What we can do is cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security and then tell everybody, bro, we were just getting rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse. We were just bringing back basic program integrity. So in other words, cut the programs without going through Congress and say, we already have the authority to do this because this is just waste, fraud, and abuse, so we don't even need to go through Congress. We're just upholding our end of the bargain, making the payments more pure, making sure the money's going where it's supposed to go. But newsflash, that is not what the fuck they're going to do. That is not what the fuck they're going to do. Every time the Republicans make cuts to necessary, vital programs that help people, they pretend, oh, we're just getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, bro. And we're not even really cutting the program. We are just reforming the program. So we're just making it better for the long term. We're saving it for the long term. This is the Weasley terminology they use when at the end of the day, they want to cut your grandma's health care. And they want...
Yo. Man. It's stuff like this where I'm just like, wow, these people, see, this is how you get Brandon Johnsons, right? This is how you get Chicago essentially about to have a downgrade in their credit. This is how you get Oakland going broke, right? About to declare bankruptcy. This is how you get people like Kamala Harris raising $1.5 billion, ending up $20 million in debt because leftists don't believe in budgets. They don't. They don't believe in going through a budget and saying, wait, we don't need this. This isn't actually really helpful. This is fraud. This is abuse. We shouldn't be spending money on this stuff. Let's cut it. They don't believe in that. And this dude is clearly showing you how unserious they are when it comes to actual governance, right? This is why you just should not elect progressives, right? Here's the thing about people like this guy. He says a whole bunch of stuff that sounds good on paper. Right? It sounds great, but in actual reality, in actual execution, it is a shit show because it's this exact same mentality where they don't feel like there should be any checks whatsoever on government spending. Again, my question to this guy is, well, what do you suggest? Do you suggest that we just continue to allow hundreds of billions of dollars per year to be wasted in waste, fraud, and abuse just because it's earmarked for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, just because it's earmarked for the social safety net? Is that what you really believe? I mean, seriously, this is how a child thinks, okay? Like a child thinks like this. Because an adult, right, an actual reasonable leftist, right? If I was a leftist, this is how I would cover this story. I would say, yeah, I agree. We should cut out those hundreds of billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse because it's not going to the right people. And then we take that money and we give it to the people that it's supposed to go to. You know, that should have been the take, right? That should have been the take. The take should not be, oh, well, let's just allow hundreds of billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse to continue because I just don't want to say that there are cuts being made to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. This is so mind-numbingly dumb, right? And again, this is how you get government programs like, for example, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden spending $40 billion on broadband internet for rural America. It sounds good, right? It sounds great. Oh, you spent $40 billion. But when you find out that nobody has been connected to this government internet and that they could have spent a fraction of that on Starlink, but they decided not to because they hate Elon Musk, you just realize how dumb this is. Like just how much of a waste of money this is, just taxpayer dollars, which ultimately ends up hurting the people that these leftists claim that they're trying to help so much because they have to pay the taxes. We got to foot the bill. That hundreds and billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse is paid for by taxpayers. You claim that you're looking out for the little guy, but yet you don't want to cut unnecessary spending so that the little guy can save some money? Because that's who's funding the waste, fraud, and abuse. The little guy, the middle class. We're funding it. So don't you think it makes sense to cut the things that are unnecessary so that we don't have to pay so much in taxes? Nah, you don't do that, right? Don't do that. Again, this is why you cannot have progressives in government. They have some decent ideas. The problem is the execution, right? The problem is that they don't believe in audits. They don't believe in accountability. They don't believe in budgets. They're just not living in reality. And you cannot have people like this running the government. You just can't. Look at California, another example. $20 billion plus to fight homelessness, and all that money went to nonprofits, aka waste, fraud, and abuse. And they didn't fix the problem at all, right? More homeless people, okay? It's almost as if the more money they spend to fight homelessness, the more homelessness becomes a problem. The more people become homeless. It's insanity. It's absolutely insanity. But again, it's because of this mindset. This mindset right here. This is how a child thinks. And we cannot have children running the government.
Want to make sure they cut her Social Security payment. This is what they want to do.
That's literally not what he said. He did not say that. In fact, he straight up said, we should not do that. We should not be cutting grandma's check. We need to focus on this stuff first before we have those conversations. But again, listen to what Vivek said. Vivek is talking about guys like this. There's a lot of people that want to have these lazy armchair conversations about entitlements, right? And they say, well, are you going to cut entitlements or what? And it's like, well, it's a more nuanced conversation than that. When you talk about looking at some of these programs, yeah, nobody wants to cut grandma's health care. Nobody wants to cut grandma's Social Security check. But that's not all the spending from Medicare and Social Security. There are also other things that Medicare and Social Security are spending money on that they should not be spending money on. And that composes a large part of some of the spending that we can take a look at first. But again, leftists, they seem to not understand that. They don't seem to understand that concept. They just think that anybody talking about trying to make these programs more efficient, to make them cost the American people less because we're paying for, oh, well, you're just a bad person. You just want to hurt grandma. And that's just certainly not the case. And again, that's why it's hard to have these conversations, because these people start kicking and screaming and crying and saying a whole bunch of things are not true in order to stop any type of real conversation about how we can reform these government programs to be more efficient, to save taxpayers money, to actually help people.
DOGE. Here's what they're going to do. Unelected, mega wealthy freaks cutting the social safety net for people in this country who need help while they loot the treasury themselves. Elon Musk taking so much government money, so many subsidies. I said this the other day.
You know, again, what's crazy about these people that continue to complain about Elon Musk getting government money? It's funny because Elon Musk is actually saving the government money, right? Elon Musk with SpaceX, he's doing projects for way cheaper than what NASA can do, right? Because SpaceX is a private company, which means they have applied the principles that private companies use when it comes to getting things done at a lower cost. And this is why SpaceX now is doing so much of the work for NASA, because it costs less. But Elon Musk is a government welfare queen. Okay, so are you saying that the government should spend more money to accomplish less with NASA than to spend that money with Elon Musk and to get more done with less taxpayer dollars? Again, this is what I'm trying to tell you. These people think like children. This is how a child thinks. I'm so serious. Because again, you know, hey, had the government actually spent that $40 billion with Starlink to provide internet in rural America, people actually would be connected to the internet, right? And for a lot cheaper. We would not have spent all that money, and people would have actually gotten the service that we paid for. But because we have a government that is run by people that think like this clown, yeah, we spent all this money and we have nothing to show for it. Nobody's been connected to the government internet. This is unbelievable. I cannot believe after this dude infamously predicted that Iowa would flip blue, Ohio would flip blue, and Florida would flip blue, Kamala would win those states in the election. I cannot believe this man still has an audience. I can't believe that anybody still watches this guy after he was just so wrong about everything leading up into the election. Everything. And then he's putting out these low IQ takes that if I was to watch this video, right, before putting it out, I'm like, nah, bro, I'm going to scratch this one, right? I'm just not even going to touch this one. This don't even sound right, right? I could not listen to this before putting it out and think, yeah, that makes sense, right? Let's be mad at people saying that they want to cut out proven waste, fraud, and abuse from the government. Again, the proper leftist take here would have been, let's cut the waste, fraud, and abuse, and then let's send grandma a bigger check, right? That's the proper leftist take. This dude can't even get that right. He didn't even think long enough before making this video to say, hey, you know what? Let me come up with something that actually makes some sense. This is mind-blowing. It really is.
An immigrant billionaire welfare queen who wants to keep funneling himself the money while cutting your grandma's health care. It doesn't get any lower than that. It doesn't get any darker than that. This guy should be fucking deported. Why should the richest man in the world, unelected richest man in the world, get to make decisions about our federal budget and what we prioritize? Get the fuck out of my country. God damn it. I can't stand these people. All right, it's going to happen. It's going to get ugly. It's going to get gross, but the oligarchy is absolutely here and in full swing. Hey, y'all, do me a favor.
Wow. This might have been one of the dumbest takes that I've ever reacted to. Again, this is a prime example why you should not let leftists anywhere near a government. Okay, I'm telling you, when you are wondering why all these far left cities are going bankrupt, is because of this type of mentality right here. This is how they think. Okay, which is why they have no clue how to manage a budget. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.